What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Doncho here again with another sewing video. It's our first video of the year for 2026. I'm super excited. This year I want to be a lot more consistent with the videos, giving you guys different tutorials and just different sewing content in general. If you're new here, welcome. Please make sure you like and subscribe. It supports the channel, it helps me grow the channel, and it's completely free. So I would greatly appreciate it. Today, if you haven't already seen by the title of the video, we're going to be learning how to make a skirt. And we're going to be using the block that we made from the last video. So once you watch the first video, come back to this one and you'll be ready to make your own skirt. So first things first, we're gonna go over materials. So first, you're gonna need your paper cutting scissors, something to draw with or trace your pattern, because we're going to be transferring it to pattern paper to add our seam allowance and to draft our waistband. You need your fabric scissors, a seam ripper just in case you make a mistake, an invisible zipper, doesn't matter the length, is your preference, and a ruler. What's not shown here is of course the pattern paper. Also, you're going to need your fashion fabric. I'm going to be using muslin because it's a demo, so I'm not going to be using any real fashion fabric. I would also look into getting some medium weight interfacing if you're using fashion fabric, so you can have it for your waistband. So the first thing we're going to do is lay out our pattern piece on our pattern paper, and we're going to trace it. So after you trace your pattern piece, be sure to add your dart and your fold line, okay? Now you can rewrite the details of the block if you want, like the type of block it is. It's a skirt block, the size, the pattern piece, whether it's the front or the back, how many times or what you have to cut, and the seam allowance. So you can add that way you know what exactly this pattern piece is for, okay? So now we're going to add our seam allowance. We're not going to add seam allowance to here because that's the fold. We're going to basically place this on the fold of the fabric, but we're going to add seam allowance to our waist, and we're going to add seam allowance to the hip, and we're going to add a hem here, okay? So I like to use 1 centimeter seam allowance. I would recommend, if you're a beginner, more than likely you are if you're watching this video, I would use a 1/2 inch seam allowance. That way you have a little bit more wiggle room if you make a mistake. But in this scenario, I'm going to be using 1 centimeter. So now I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to just basically mark out 1 centimeter. Okay, so here you see I've added a 1 centimeter seam allowance to the waist and to the side seam. And now I'm going to add a 2 centimeter seam allowance to the hem. Now it just depends on your personal preference, how large you want your hem to be. For this example, I'm just going to do 2 centimeters. So I'm going to measure out 2 centimeters with my ruler. 1.5 inches, 2. I'll draw a straight line. And then I'm going to connect my side seam and my center front. Okay, so now you have your hem, your side seam, and your hip seam allowance. Okay, so now we have our back pattern piece, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to trace it. Be sure to add your darts, and we're going to add seam allowance to the entire block. Since we're cutting 2 of these and not on the fold, you want to add seam allowance to every side of this block. So first we're going to trace it, and then we're going to come back and add the seam allowance. Now I'm going to add 1 centimeter seam allowance on our side seam, the waist, and the center back. And at the hem, I'm going to add 2 centimeter seam allowance. Okay, I have added my seam allowance. disregard this line. I don't know what I was thinking. I started adding two centimeter seam allowance like I did the hem, but it's 1 centimeter on the center back. And let me go ahead and label that for you. Center back. Okay. So now I'm gonna cut this out and we're gonna move to the next step. So now we're going to draft our waistband. In this example, our waist measurement was 68 centimeters. So we're going to divide that by 2 to make it 34 centimeters because we're going to cut it on a fold. Here I'm going to draw my first line to the 34 centimeter mark, okay? And I like my waistbands to be 5 centimeters. So I'm going to measure 5 centimeters. That's the width. And then I'm going to draw another line to complete the waistband. Sorry guys, my dog is walking around the house. Apparently she likes to walk around the house whenever I'm recording a video, just to let you guys know that she's here. Okay, so this is the beginning of our waistband. Okay, so I'm gonna write this in. This may be upside down to you. Waistband. All right, and we're going to draw our arrow for the fold. Okay, same thing here. We're going to add 1 centimeter seam allowance on each side. That is not the fold. All right. Okay, so we're going to add a 1 centimeter seam allowance to each side. Okay, just like this. Perfect. So now we have our 1 centimeter seam allowance going all the way around, except for the fold, because we're going to cut this on the fold of our fabric. Now we're going to cut out our waistband. All right, so now I have my muslin laid out. I always recommend starting with muslin instead of fashion fabric, just so you can make sure the fit is correct before you go to your fashion fabric. Don't mess up your fashion fabric. So now I'm gonna lay my pieces along my grain line, and we're going to trace them and cut them out. Okay, so I went ahead and transferred my back pattern piece to the muslin. Now I'm going to cut this out, and now I'm going to do the same thing for the center front, or I'm sorry, the front pattern piece. But don't forget, you need to cut it on the fold. Okay, so now that I have my pattern piece cut out, I'm going to snip at the dart legs, the top of the dart, so that way I know where those parts are, so when I sew it down I can match up my notches. Okay, so I'm going to put this to the side, and now we're going to move to the front pattern piece. All right, so now we're going to place our pattern piece on the fold here. I'm going to take some pattern weights. I use random weights, things for weights. I'll use a cup, water, it doesn't matter, my scissors. Okay, boom. So we're going to place this on the fold. We're going to trace around, and then we're going to cut this out. Okay, so I did this in blue just to make it a little bit easier to see. So I have added my dart. Now I'm going to cut this out, and we're going to do the waistband. Now we're going to place our waistband down on the fold, and we're going to trace around, and we're going to cut this out. So since my phone died, I went ahead and serged my pattern pieces except for the waist of the skirt. So if you don't have a serger, you can use a zigzag stitch. That works just as good. So here's our waistband, our 2 back pieces, and our front piece. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold over our dart. We're going to match this up. Well, I'm gonna do it on this side since I can see it. We're going to match up our notches. And we're going to use our iron to press this down here, and we're going to sew a straight stitch from here all the way up. Now, when you finish your straight stitch, do not back stitch at the end. You want to cut your tail and you want to tie a knot here, and I'll show you what that looks like. So now that I have sewn down my dart, I'm going to take my tail, and I did not back stitch here, and this is why. So because we're going to tie a knot right here. Sometimes I like to tie 2 to secure, and then I cut my tail. All right, now I'm going to press this like this, and I'm going to open it up and press the dart towards the center front. Then you're going to do this exact same thing to all of your darts. Okay, so after you finish sewing your darts down, this is what it should look like on the right side, and this is what it looks like on the inside. Okay, this is the front. Darts pushed to the inside. Now we're going to put right sides together, starting with the side seam. We're going to pin all the way down, and then we're going to sew using the seam allowance that we used in our pattern. So for me, that was 1 centimeter. For you, that was ½ inch. Now that we've sewn down our side seam, we're going to press here while it's still folded. Then we're going to open our seam and press here, and then we're going to fold it this way and we're going to press here. Okay, so you're going to press 3 times. Pressing is so important, guys. You're going to press on the inside of the skirt, then you're going to open up the seam and press, then you're going to flip it over, and you're going to press 1 more time. All right, after you're done pressing, this is what your seam should look like when it's folded over, and we're almost done, guys. So now we're going to go back to our serger or use a zigzag stitch, and we're going to serge or zigzag the waist. Okay, now that we've zigzagged or serged the waist, we're going to take our waistband, fold it in half, and then we're going to press it. We've pressed our waistband. We're going to open it back up to show the wrong side, and we're going to fold in our seam allowance on one side. So this whole side, I'm going to fold in 1 centimeter, for you ½ inch, and this side I'm going to leave free. All right, so this is what your waistband should look like after you fold down the seam allowance. Now we're going to open it back up, and we're going to take the side that we did not fold down, and we're going to attach it right sides together to our skirt like this, and we're going to sew it down using the 1 centimeter seam allowance and 1/2 inch seam allowance for you. Okay, after you've sewn this down, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna press along here. We're gonna open up the seam, press it, and then flip it over like this and press. Now we're gonna fold our skirt right sides together, and we're gonna take our zipper and the top of the teeth right here. We're gonna place this face down, okay? And right where this crease is, we're gonna line it up like so, and we're gonna measure all the way down to the end of the zipper. This is where the zipper ends, okay? And we're going to mark that. I'm gonna mark where the zipper ends, okay? Now we're gonna take our skirt to the machine and we're gonna sew our seam allowance from this point all the way down to the end of the skirt. Now that I have sewn that down, I just went ahead and pressed it open. Now this is where it may be confusing, so I'm gonna try to explain it the best way I can. Now I'm going to do a basting stitch from this crease all the way to this line. So we're gonna use the longest stitch length that we have, and we're gonna baste from here all the way down. Do not back stitch at all, because we're gonna undo this stitch later. Okay guys, our skirt is coming together. So now I'm gonna take my zipper face down, and I'm going to place it in this crease, in this seam, with the top of the zipper on this fold like this. Now you can baste the zipper down before you sew it down if you want by hand sewing, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pin it, and I'm gonna go ahead and use my zipper foot, and I'm gonna sew as close as I can to the zipper teeth all the way down, and then I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. Now that you've sewn your zipper together, go ahead and undo your basting stitch. I've already done it, and you see now we have a completed zipper that's attached to the skirt. Now we're gonna close the waistband. Okay, so here we're going to take this extra, fold it down, kind of diagonal a little bit. Then we're gonna take our waistband and fold it on top, right where our seam is, like this. Then we're going to stitch it down right here. Okay, after you've sewn it down, we're going to turn it like this, then boom. There we go. Now this is an invisible zipper. I could have sewn a little bit closer to the zipper teeth, but it is okay. So you're gonna do that to both sides, and then you're going to zip up your skirt. So this is what it'll look like with one side, and we're going to do this side, and then we're going to hem. Now that we've closed our zipper in, we're going to fold up the remaining seam allowance like this to hide it, and then we're going to top stitch all the way around. After that, we're going to hem our skirt. We're gonna, so I did 2 centimeters. I'm gonna fold up 1 centimeter and then fold it up again 1 centimeter. And then I'm going to top stitch on the edge here at the top. And there you have it, guys, a completed A-line skirt. thank you guys for tuning in to this video. If you have any concerns, or if you want to see any other tutorials, or if you want to see me break down a certain part of the video even more, I'll gladly make another video to help you guys out. But until next time, see you soon.